16 prisoners. 16 enemies are arrested for standing up against the armistice between Germany and France and taken to Castle Itter during World War II. Here, they must make a compromise and settle their personal conflicts as they devise a plan of escape. In the last days of the war, in an unprecedented display of camaraderie, American and German soldiers, once bitter enemies, also make a compromise and unite to rescue these prisoners, to save themselves and others from certain annihilation. This is the last battle of World War II. (1939) Europe is at war. With the rising German Nazi government threatening to invade, France makes preparations to defend themselves from a potential attack. Tensions are not only high between France and Germany, but are also high within France and the battle for Prime Minister. Following France's declaration of war, Edouard Daladier, the Prime Minister, is uncertain about what actions to take. His indecisiveness and caution is seen as a weakness, and in 1940, Paul Reynaud, his political enemy, takes his place as Prime Minister.
The resignation of Monsieur Daladier and his government was the big news for several days before Easter. His successor, Monsieur Paul Reynaud, entrusted with the task of forming a cabinet by the President of France, broke all records by carrying out the job in little more than 24 hours.
This event sparks a political conflict among the politicians. During this feud, on May 10, 1940, the French politicians' abilities are put to the test as Germany enters France's borders and the invasion begins. As the war progresses, French soldiers face threats by both the German soldiers and the Waffen-SS, the elite German troops. Fearing capture, some French politicians propose an armistice with Germany. However, many politicians across France, including both Daladier and Reynaud, actively oppose this armistice. Daladier warns France about uniting with Germany, saying, "We shall be faced with the dilemma of choosing between peaceful and collaboration among peoples and the domination by some of these peoples. The French government is resolved, and this must be known to raise all her forces against all the ventures of domination which might arise." Paul Reynaud refuses to support the armistice and resigns as Prime Minister. He's immediately replaced by Marshal Philippe Pétain, and under his rule, the armistice with Germany is signed. Between 1941 and 1943, Daladier and other politicians who opposed the armistice are arrested by Pétain for standing up against the collaboration with Hitler's Germany. These politicians are told that they are to be taken to a special facility in Austria for VIP prisoners, Castle Itter. Daladier and two other politicians are transferred to the magnificent but intimidating castle under the supervision of Sebastian Wimme, the ruthless Nazi commander of the prison. Castle life is quiet with the three prisoners, but 10 days later, an old enemy arrives on the doorstep of the castle. Daladier is shocked to see none other than Paul Reynaud, his worst political rival, enter the castle as one of its newest prisoners. In the following months, more prisoners arrive at the castle, each with conflicting political viewpoints and ideals. Some supporting Reynaud and some supporting Daladier, a rivalry forms among the prisoners in Castle Itter. They are allowed to roam the castle and the courtyard, but they struggle to live together in peace. The German captors enjoy the steepening conflict as they watch the important French figures segregate themselves among the castle. As time passes, the politicians slowly learn to peacefully coexist. As hopes of leaving the castle dwindle, they realize they need to tolerate each other and compromise before they can escape. Meanwhile, the Allies develop a plan to invade France to free the country from the German rule. On June 6, 1944, American, British, and Canadian troops land on the Normandy beaches, and the battle commences to take back the French land. In the next 2 months, Paris is liberated, and the fight continues against the Nazis. By 1945, Allied American troops march into Austria to take it back from Germany. Sensing defeat, Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany, commits suicide on April 30th, 1945. With his death, many knew that the dream of Nazi dominance was over. This began the downfall of Nazi Germany. When the prisoners receive word about the advancing American troops that could rescue them, they decide that they need to do something to speed up their release. The prisoners realize that fighting will get them nowhere, and now is the time to work together to free themselves from German captivity. Forgetting their conflicts of the past, they compromise and devise a plan for their freedom. They enlist the help of Zvonimir Chuchkovich, a Yugoslav handyman who once worked for Wimme, the Nazi commander of the prison. On May 3, 1945, Wimme sends Chuchkovich on a job outside of the castle, and Chuchkovich, now a supporter of the politicians, uses this opportunity to seek help. He leaves on a bicycle with a note from the politicians to alert the first Americans he comes across about their capture. Not long after Chuchkowicz's departure, word reaches the castle of Hitler's suicide. Anticipating eventual capture by the approaching Allied troops, Wimmer flees the castle with his wife on May 4th, along with the rest of the German guards, leaving their weapons and their equipment behind. Fearing that Chuchkowicz may not return, and that more soldiers may be lurking around the castle, the politicians send Andreas Krobout, the castle's chef, with another note to search for American troops. Krobout bikes to a nearby Austrian town, where he encounters a special group of German soldiers who had joined the Allied fight after becoming disillusioned with the Nazi ideals. There, he meets German General Joseph Gongel, who opposes the elite Waffen-SS soldiers and agrees to aid in the rescue of the French prisoners. In search of more reinforcements, Krobout and the German troops encounter the 23rd American Armored Tank Division, led by John C. Lee, and ask for assistance. Knowing that they could successfully save the prisoners with their combined strength, John C. Lee agrees to compromise with the German soldiers to rescue the French prisoners. In an unprecedented display of teamwork, American and German soldiers, once bitter enemies, unite to rescue the captured French politicians. They embark on their journey toward the castle with 14 American soldiers, 10 German soldiers, and a tank, ready to fight against whoever stands in their way. The soldiers arrive at the castle and the escape begins. On the dawn of May 5th, local Waffen-SS soldiers attack the castle, and using the equipment and weapons left by the fled soldiers, the prisoners prepare to fight back. The prisoners fight together for their freedom, despite their differences of the past. The American and German soldiers protect the prisoners together and fight against the SS. Among the battle, Joseph Gongel, the German general, is shot and killed by the SS after he protects those that were once his enemies from enemy fire. By the late afternoon, as the battle rages on, the prisoners can see troops arriving in the distance. To the rescue arrives more American troops, joined by none other than Zvonimir Chuchkowicz, the first prisoner that left the castle to find reinforcements. The reinforcements arrive at the castle, where they relieve Americans and Germans alike of any more action and free the prisoners once and for all. After the defeat of the surrounding SS soldiers, the prisoners are free to go back to France. Because of the combined compromises of the American soldiers, German soldiers, and French prisoners, the conflict is finally over. On September 2nd, 1945, people all over the world can rejoice as World War II concludes. Following the war, Marshal Philippe Pétain, the former leader of the German-controlled French government, is tried. At the trial, the French politicians testify against him, and Pétain is sentenced to life in prison. In the years following, many of the French former prisoners take up important roles in politics, helping France recover from the loss of many lives. If the American and German soldiers failed to protect these prisoners, the surviving politicians would not have made vital contributions to the world after the war. For example, Leon Joho, one of the prisoners, receives a Nobel Peace Prize in 1951 for his work to promote social equality and for fixing the damaged relationship between France and Germany after the war. Edouard Daladier serves as the mayor of Avignon from 1953 to 1958 and reflects upon his experiences at Castle Itter through his wartime diaries. Paul Reynaud returns to politics soon after the war and becomes the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. Through their experiences, the politicians learn that their ability to work together, despite their vast political differences, gives them the most success. Along with the politicians achieving success, John C. Lee, the American general, is known today as one of the heroes of the last battle of World War II. Joseph Gongel, the German general, is regarded as an Austrian national hero, with a large gravestone and even a street named after him. Gongel's heroic sacrifice shows that he was willing to die protecting those that were once his enemies, forgetting the past and fighting for the greater good. This compromise that occurred despite negative political history makes the rescue at Castle Itter one of the most unique battles of the war. This teamwork between the once rival American soldiers and German soldiers, and that between the French prisoners, is significant because it took the courage of all three groups to forget about the conflicts of the past and to join together to fight for freedom. The Battle of Castle Itter is commonly known as the strangest battle of World War II because of the compromise between the American and German soldiers. This powerful event in history shows the effects of a compromise despite political differences that brings an end to conflict and suffering.